The last thing we want to see is to break out our arms. But we need to have them in hand, and the government needs to know that we will use them if they continue down the path they're on. I am not promoting arms against our government, but our government needs to know that if they go past a certain line in the sand, that will take place. That's why we have the Second Amendment. That's why it says the Second Amendment will not be infringed. That's why it says we should have a well-regulated militia. Do we have a well-regulated militia? No, we don't. We're not even ready. We need to get ready.
You need to exercise your rights, you need to protect your rights to keep and bear arms, and you need to keep your powder dry. But this talk about taking up arms against the government is ridiculous, and I don't think very many people in this room actually believe that. We have a lot of legal avenues to exhaust long before we ever get to that. So I want to make sure that your viewers understand that we are not proponents of an armed militia taking up arms against the government. That's not where we are. That's not what our group represents.
Look how much damage Barack Obama and his socialist Congress did in 18 months. It could take us 10 years to undo this crap. And you say we can't consider using weapons?
It's Friday morning in Pahrump, rural Nevada, and in a back room at the Nugget casino, around 40 elderly men meet for their weekly breakfast and bull session to talk about whatever's on their mind. When did you start these?
About 5 years ago, we started with just 3 or 4 guys, 6 guys, 8 guys. The casino couldn't handle this anymore because we're too loud. So we've jumped from place to place to place, and now we have at least 50, 55 people coming in.
What do they come for, do you think?
They come for like minds. Most of us have like minds. We're all conservative, but we're all, I don't want to say Tea Partyists, but we all understand that we have to make a change, or else we're going to really be in trouble.
Do you have a name for this gathering?
Well, one of the candidates for senator, Sue Loudon, she was running against Sharon Angle. She asked me the same question, and I says, you know what? I really can't put a label on it because we're not. There's no dues or anything like that. She says, well, how about if I label you the Old Farts Club? And I says, perfect name. Right. So we're the Old Farts Club.
The Old Farts Club. I took a straw poll to see where they stood on a few issues. How many of you here believe that Obama is violating the Constitution? How many of you believe the country is descending into tyranny?
Descended.
How many of you believe that Obama was born in the United States? I went to the University of Las Vegas to ask Professor David Dammer if he was surprised that the Tea Party has done as well as it has in Nevada.
If you sort of look at the history of Nevada, we have a very sort of anti-government philosophy, very sort of libertarian, small size of government, small spending. For example, we don't even have a state income tax here. Sharon Angle's been sort of the forefront of that movement her whole political career in Nevada, and she's sort of been waiting for the right time. I like to say she was in the Tea Party before there was such a thing as a Tea Party. So there is that strain in Nevada politics here. So it's really not that surprising. What I think has surprised people is the amount of national money and enthusiasm that has come to bear here.
Back at the Nugget Casino, they engage in a spirited back and forth for 3 hours about matters local, national, judicial, and political.
Government has gotten way out of whack from just securing the freedoms of the people. And so that to me is what the heart and soul of the Tea Party is understanding that something's terribly, terribly wrong.
Can you imagine what Elena Kagan and Sotomayor are going to do to this country until we can somehow find a way to remove them from the Supreme Court? Perhaps it's because the president who nominated her wasn't legal to start with.
I want to call your attention to Frank Mauricio's efforts on the town board to have open discussions about economic development and bringing jobs here. And We have an idiot over here who thinks it's a loser. However, they have tried to take it off the agenda. They have tried to put it at the end of the agenda. Frank persevered, and it is now number 5 on the agenda.
Everybody in this country is starting to realize, especially off the left and the right coast, in the center, we're going to take back the country.
What we do in this room, we have to take beyond this room and never give up.
After this election, this group and every Tea Party like it can't stop.
It would be easy to pathologise the Tea Party, but it's much more difficult and important to understand who they are, what they want, and why they've become such a dynamic force. Because they didn't come from nowhere, and they're not going anywhere soon.